so can we call the meeting to order? Elaine is back after 18 months?
A little while. So yeah,
Yes.
Matt was here for about a year or so, and I was here before that, but I don't know all the faces in the room, so I thought maybe we could go around and introduce. So I'm with the planning department. My name is Elaine Naseby.
And I'm Robin Arthurs, General Manager, Corporate Services at the district.
I'm Brian Lord, member at large.
I'm Chrissy McKay, member at large.
Wes Daven, member at large.
Helen Hapgood, Federation of Mountain Clubs of BC.
I'm Bob Smith, Director of Public Works for the district.
Susanna Virgent, Public Works Supervisor for the district.
Caroline Walter, Climbers Access Society of BC.
Brent Nixon, Vice President of the Climbers Access Society of BC.
Matt Parker, Squamish Trail Society.
Laura Mildray, member at large. Susan Chappelle, Squamish Councillor.
Toby Ford-Kelsey, Squamish Access Society, right?
Thanks.
So does anybody have anything to change on the agenda? If not, can we have a motion to accept the agenda?
So,
Seconded. Show of hands to accept. Do we have the minutes from the last meeting? I don't think we do.
October 6th.
We don't. I don't think we've got them in front of us.
They were
are they?
attached
Okay,
to
they're
the
not.
agenda.
Okay.
They're
Yeah,
online
so
and
I
attached.
think. Are we? Do people feel they
And
need
November
hard
15th.
copy to review those minutes,
Those
or
are the
should
ones
we
were-
just?
We were sent, right?
They were in the
Yeah.
link.
So they were. So does anybody have, from their recollection of those minutes? Does anybody have any comments? I don't recall any. I think quite a lot's moved on since then. Anyway.
And point of order, there are two sets of minutes, one from October 6th and one from November 15th. Oh, that's the committee of the whole, sorry. That's
Yeah,
background.
yeah. No, the October
Yeah.
was the last of these
Right.
committee meetings. Yeah. So could we have a motion to accept the minutes? Anyone seconding?
Sorry, I didn't catch you.
So Chrissy proposed, Laura seconded. Show of hands to accept. It's very straightforward. I don't know if we, and because I'm not aware that there would be specific business arising beyond things that are covered in the agenda. Does anybody feel there is any specific point of business that? No. So, Sue, do you want to do the budget update?
Okie dokie. Of course, we're still waiting for the budget to be approved, so the anticipated budget for the committee is $5,000. There is an expected expense for repair to the Upper Loop Trail panorama, which I believe was in the works last year to get repaired, but weather kind of put that off. And in speaking with our contractor, it's anticipated about 3 weeks that maybe Keith Halverson will be able to get in and do a little bit of work up that way. So other than that, everything still stays status quo. And as for the contract services, of course, John Harvey was a successful contractor that applied for the maintenance for the park. So he has carried on, and from January to now. And beyond that, so that the budget, 22,000 there, anticipated, of course, and then of course expenses from himself and one sign replacement. So other than that, for the maintenance portion, October maintenance, or general maintenance, clearing water swales and ditches, trenches, raise a section of trail bed near the Panorama Crag that had washed out. November maintenance, general maintenance, large brush pile near Tunnel Rock, removed by volunteer school group, Silverback Tree Service to chip brush pile, contractor to continue with clearing water bars and trenching. And December and January, well, lots of snow. So it was major snow removal off the stairs, which folks really appreciated that idea. And February, General maintenance, again, winter snow and ice removal, maintenance to the Viewpoint Loop Trail, remove broken bike rack from Tunnel Rock Crag, District Squamish to replace. It was, we actually wound up damaging it, but I believe we have another bike rack in our stock that we can fix that up. And John will actually replace it for us. And then of course confirming the date with Keith Halverson, and since I did this up yesterday, it was confirmed 3 weeks approximately that he'll be able to come in and do the upper loop trail panorama. And that's all I got.
Thanks very much. That seems like a good presentation to me. So this committee is anticipated to meet less frequently henceforth. So I guess it's of particular importance this. Not sure when we're intending that there should be another meeting, but there's a greater onus on us to kind of make good forward-thinking judgments about work priorities, I guess, although we do have, the management plan does include items for this year. I'm certainly aware that Brian and I went and looked at that panorama issue, definitely. That's definitely urgent. Yeah, so that's good. That's going on. I'm not. Is this? It would be this. Looking at the, we don't have a trail item in the agenda this month. I mean, maybe this is the moment if anybody's aware of anything else that should be brought to your attention or brought to John's attention.
I asked John as well
Yeah.
if there was
Yeah.
anything that he could think of that was pressing that to bring
Yeah.
forward, and that was it for
Yeah.
now. So it needs to come from you folks.
Is anybody else on the committee aware of anything?
I think we can rely on John's judgment when it
Yeah.
comes to sort of
Yeah.
identifying trails.
Yeah.
and so
No. Do we consider item 2 to be covered under the same, essentially covered under that presentation as well? So
Sorry.
is item 2 essentially covered by that as well?
Yes, the park maintenance contract.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So perhaps for the future, those items should be made into a single item, not for me to guide. Oh, sorry about that. Elaine, do you want to? You're going to
Sure.
present on the management plan.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have a short presentation. I also have copies of the management plan draft from last October, as well as copies of the current one. If anybody wants to look at those hard copies here, maybe I'll put them on the table. Okay, so there's sort of 3 that are current. These 2 are previous. I'll see if I have other copies.
I've got a copy.
Why previous one?
Brian and I will share.
Thank you.
So this is the old one? No, this is the new one, and this is the October and that's dated papers.
October,
Highlight
this is the
difference.
new one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the only hard copies I have, so I hope that's okay. So the Smoke Bluffs Park Management Plan, you guys worked on that all last year with Matt Gunn. So at the last Smoke Bluffs meeting on October 6th, a draft was brought forward to the committee. And then on November 15th, that draft was brought forward to council from staff at a committee of the whole meeting. And at that meeting, council passed the motion that the Smoke Bluffs Park Management Plan be referred back to the Smoke Bluffs Park Committee for additional clarification on the language used and increased consistency of language between user groups. The attachments that were with tonight's agenda were the November 15th Council Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, as well as the current draft and the October draft from last year for comparison purposes. So yeah, tonight we're reviewing the current draft. If the committee supports this revised draft, staff will bring the draft forward to council. Staff reviewed the draft for typos, clarification, or missing information and made minor revisions throughout. So that had to do with the staff change from Matt to myself. I took a look at the management plan with fresh eyes and there was some minor revisions, and I have one copy of the management plan with track changes if anybody wants to see those minor revisions, but they were not considered substantial. The one change to note was that there was 3 tables that were embedded in the document. So they were all moved to the appendix. I think maybe 1 or 2 had previously been in the appendix. They've all been moved there for clarity. And those have to do with the capital projects as well as the maintenance
The
projects.
ranking of the capital project, those ones?
Yeah, exactly. So the revisions that staff made in response to council's recommendation were in the additional user groups section on pages 16 and 17. So in relation to the consistency of language between user groups, in the equestrian, mountain biking, and trials riding sections, references to permitted or not encouraged were removed. And in the hikers, trail runners, and dog walkers section, the following was added, that the loop trail is primarily a pedestrian use trail. The revisions that were also made, so under cycling, previously there was the language that, so this is the new language. It says, there is support for the possible development of a dedicated mountain bike route through the upper park to connect to trails beyond the park boundaries. Should a future mountain bike connection through Smoke Bluffs Park be developed, consideration would include separating user groups where there are safety or sightline concerns, similar to the usage principles on the main trail. And just for clarity, I'll read out sort of what was in the previous draft. In that same section, it said, investigation into the possible development of a dedicated bike route through the upper park which connects to trails beyond the park boundaries without negatively impacting the loop trail network and crag access trails is supported. So if the committee tonight supports the revised draft, staff recommends that the following recommendation be made, that the draft Smoke Bluffs Park Management Plan, having endorsement from the Smoke Bluffs Park Committee, be brought forward to council. So happy to answer any questions or clarify anything. I also have a version of the previous draft and a version of the current draft in that additional user group section that's highlighted those changes if that wasn't clear to anybody.
If there aren't any questions, should we proceed to a motion to accept the document?
I guess I have a question about the trials riding section. It doesn't say anything about access to that polygon through the park. It just says that trials riding is generally supported in that area. And it says that trials riding should not cross the loop trail, but it doesn't say anything about trials riding using the loop trail to access that area. I mean, there are trails that access that area that originate outside the park, and that's how most people get up there, I guess, but there's nothing that's, I know we can't strictly prohibit it, but maybe as part of a management plan objective, we should not support that. Is that some wording that would be acceptable?
In the previous draft, the wording was trials bikes are not encouraged on the popular trails used by climbers and hikers, but it is recognized that they will continue to use the park. So staff removed that just to have consistent language between the user groups.
I think to me the point that you made about the access being from outside the park is the key one, isn't it? That we have no jurisdiction over that. It's not relevant to comment on that, especially. We certainly know that access is used and exists. So.
Yeah, I thought there was some wording about it being discouraged in the last draft, but that's,
Encouraged and discouraged are words that
you don't like those?
that we
It
don't
said,
like.
it said not encouraged.
Yeah.
Don't go there, Wes. Anyone else? Would
I
anyone,
think we've devoted a fair amount of time to this. I suggest we move forward on it.
would anyone like to, should we put the, is that a motion or is that a,
That's a possible motion that the group might want to
yeah,
pass.
that seems to me a suitable motion. Draft and endorse the rule for
Maybe for endorsement, for approval, for adoption.
You know, I had that text in there and I asked Gary whether it would be likely to be adopted or endorsed, and he said that we would worry about that when we brought it forward to council, but maybe Councillor Chappelle has a thought on that, I don't know.
I would like it adopted. If the Smoke Bluffs committee approves this, it should be adopted.
Okay,
If it's for adoption,
yes.
to be getting it off. But I would like it to be a document that's supported.
Okay.
So what does that make the motion?
It would just add the words "for adoption" at the end.
So would somebody like to craft the final version for somebody? Okay. What is the final version?
So it would be that the draft Smoke Bluffs Park Management Plan, having endorsement from the Smoke Bluffs Park Committee, be brought forward to council for adoption.
I think it seems clear to me.
Seems good to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can Elaine make that motion?
This is an exciting day that.
Someday.
I'll make the motion.
The pace, but not place.
Excellent.
I'll make the
Great.
motion that the draft Smoke Bluffs Park Management Plan, having an endorsement from the Smoke Bluff Park Committee, be brought forward to council for adoption.
Well done, Matt.
Chris is seconding.
Oh, great.
Yay.
Yay.
And can we have a show of hands? Second motion. Anyone against?
Because of the trials riders.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to start who voted.
Recognize my feelings on the
So,
subject.
Where are you from?
do I? Oh, sorry. So apparently I need to,
Representative was here through all these discussions.
What's that?
Your representative was here.
He was.
Discussion.
Yeah.
Brian, so apparently Robin says I need to name the people who are in favour of the motion.
No, not
Which
favor,
one? No,
opposed.
just
Oh,
opposed.
opposed. So
Yes.
Wes Staven was opposed to the motion.
No,
Thank you, Wes. So I think the motion is passed.
It is.
Wow.
10 years.
So
Good job.
are we done on that?
Yeah.
So continuing the excitement, we have the parking lot update.
We gave it to you, don't break it.
So Elaine, do you have any, so I went to look at the work in the parking lot, so it appears to be almost finished. Do you know if it's finished? Certainly astonishing transformation in a very short time.
I think that's an operational question.
Yeah, I spoke with engineering today and just to get an update, and it is the surface is pretty much done. They're just doing some slight drainage tweaks, so there'll be some
Yeah.
culverts and stuff going in.
Yeah.
The sign's obviously in a bit of an awkward spot now, right in the middle of the parking lot, so they'll get that dealt with. So a little bit of cleanup work, but yeah, for sure 90% done.
Is there going to be some marking of in the new area of sort of what's parking or not? Is it going to be left informal?
I think, to the best of my knowledge, it's going to be left.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
budgeted for anything
Yeah,
else, just
yeah,
gravel.
yeah. Certainly, having watched the progress of the work, some of the areas that were covered were very poorly flooded. They were very flooded before the work began. So I guess there's confidence that the work that's being done won't be flooded going forward.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean it's great news.
Yeah.
It's unexpected that it should be done so quickly.
Do they flood the parking lot in the snow or anything?
Oh, yeah.
That is-
Not very often.
the
We
gravel
So-
and-
pretty low on our-
Yeah.
We
I just
are
noticed like
grateful to
one
Jason
winter I went in
Wood
there,
and
well,
his
2 weeks ago I went in there and there was
Dartmouth
Snow.
development. Yeah.
Some trucks
pretty
got in there, and there's a lot of people in the Smoke Bluffs that day, but no one's really to park.
We would use it as snow storage if we had to.
Anything else on that item? Brian, you have a few things to talk about. Yep. On Craig Work. Item 5, Craig Work Group.
Oh, we're there already?
We're there already, yeah.
Before I get into the main item, which is the Crowd Keeper program, I'd just like to sort of ask that you talk to John about the possibility of doing some base work and landing work around Fonorama as he goes by with the trail. There's a great deal of alder coming back there. It would be nice if they were removed with the machine while it's in place, and the area levelled at the base of the crag to make it more accessible to toilets, since we do have a machine on site. So.
Okay, so just for clarity, base work and landing
At the
work?
Fonorama. John will know what I mean.
Okay.
He can call him if he doesn't. So. The Squamish Access Society is working to add a new on-the-ground sort of initiative to help maintain the enormous number of new crag developments that have been happening throughout the district. And the Smoke Bluff Park will be one of the beneficiaries, not the sole beneficiary, but will be one of the beneficiaries of this program. Yeah. And you have hopefully have read the document, so I will happily answer any questions that you have. Sure.
First of all, I think it's an excellent program and an addition, and I'm just wondering how it will be formalized. Will it be, you sign up on the page, or how will you attract the people? Being advertised, or is it something the district can contribute to?
When we started to discuss this program, one of the things we wanted to do was to sort of try to remove Squamish Access Society from the responsibility of totally managing this program. We already have 2 programs which we manage, which are quite onerous. So the intent of this program would be to have organizations take ownership, if you like, of a specific crag or group of crags. We will be focusing initially on ones which are popular among beginner to intermediate and teaching groups, so to get the biggest bang for the buck. So we have basically invited a number of clubs and organizations, all very respectable: the Alpine Club of Canada, the British Columbia Mountaineering Club, the Vancouver Rock Climbing Group, and the Varsity Outdoor Club. In total, these people represent literally thousands of members, so they have a huge depth of membership. And our intent would be to introduce them to what is involved. And many of these people have no clue as to how this stuff happens. So we want to bring representatives from various clubs to a seminar, for use a grand term, in May. We will introduce them to examples of crags in the bluffs that have been worked on over the years, and the stuff that works and doesn't work. And they will be then given the responsibility of organising it themselves. We will basically help them any way we can by providing advice and guidance, but they will be responsible for initiating the program and reporting back to us. Okay, so it's a self-driven project. Okay? And they will carry their own responsibility for it, and we will just cheer them on. So, it's hard to know how well this project will work. I was responsible for getting the 10-3 trail program going, and I find that once people get engaged in this stuff, they actually quite enjoy it, even if it is tedious work. Hence the short time frame I envisage for each work party. But we'll try for the first year with simple projects that are easily managed and easily audited afterwards, and we'll look at it at the end of the year and see how it's going, and we'll take it from there.
Excellent. Thank you
Social
so much.
media will be used extensively for us to organise things and alert the public as to
On the
activities.
Scottish Access Society page?
So all of us, Scottish Access Society, the Alpine Club pages, they'll all be carrying sort of notices of work that's being done by their organisations. They will claim credit and we will be the side beneficiaries.
Has this been done elsewhere? Or did you just,
No,
you just
not that I know of.
created it? That's great.
This is a totally new program. It's totally experimental. It may not work. So, but we have to
Worth
try
trying.
something. If we don't, we all know what happens. Anything else?
It's fair to say the intent is multi-year, isn't it? That
Oh,
the
yes,
group, we
yes.
hope the group will adopt a specific cliff, and we'll carry we'll do annual, maybe I don't know, annual work.
The more difficult climbs, for example, the main walls of the Chief don't need maintenance because they're A, very steep, frequently are not crack systems particularly, so a mixture of crack and face, and they seem to stay clean naturally to a large extent, as do the very popular beginner climbs with burgers and fries. So it's those middling cliffs that we want, which are very popular, like Murin Park, Commonwealth, very, very popular, but very, very high maintenance.
Anything else, Brian?
No, mine. Good.
So, we need, Laura and I have both served for 2 years as chair and deputy chair. So we need to appoint new ones. 2 years. 2 years. Actually slightly more, fractionally more than 2 years.
Time
I'd
flies.
say.
Except the name chair.
So, Robin, I'm not quite sure how this works. I'm assuming that people are nominated.
May I nominate?
Brian, could you nominate somebody?
Yes, I could. I'd like to nominate Chrissy to be our new chair.
And could I call for a second?
Second.
Thanks, Robin. Could we have a vote? Show of hands? Do I need to ask
That's
one?
easy.
Sorry? Oh yeah, no one was opposed? No. Anyone wish to nominate deputy chair? I would like, if I'm allowed to nominate, I would like to nominate Wes. Show of hands. That was easy.
That was it.
And that, Chrissy, you're on.
You're on. Go grab your chair. Let's get on.
I'd like to thank Toby
Yeah,
for
thank
serving 2 years for a committee that's at times been challenging, and I think that you've done a fantastic job as a new chair for them. So thank you for your commitment.
Yeah. Thanks, Toby.
Thanks, Toby.
And the new chair is way better looking.
There's no contest there.
It's not hard to beat the old chair.
Straight from Toby's notes.
We nominated you.
That's correct, Council Member 5.
So, does anybody, or so council,
There's none? Yeah, there is none.
oh, okay. Does anyone have anything for roundtable discussion? Or should we just go around the table?
We can, if I might jump in, you might want to discuss your meeting strategy now that we're down to, it's supposed to be 3 meetings a year annually, plus a park walkabout with council, in the summertime or when the weather is good. When you want to meet and what you want those agendas to look like. So I would assume, the first meeting of the year is a recap of where the budget is at, what the projects for the year are, maybe a mid-year check-in, and then while we develop our budgets in the fall for council, we might want, a September type of a meeting to make sure that staff are aligned with the committee and what is going forward to council. Then that's just a suggestion, it's up to the committee. That's sort of what I was thinking. And you can jump in on when you want that through the year to look like.
I was under the impression it was 4 meetings a
I think that includes the walkabout though, when
year.
we
Yeah,
talked
that's
about it with council,
normally
that
poorly
was,
attended, so.
yeah, but, yeah.
Toby?
Yeah, so I would echo what Brian said, is I don't feel that there was ever an actual decision on this. I know there've been several suggestions, but I don't feel there's been agreement. I think there's been talk of 5 meetings, 4 meetings, 3 plus a walk around, but there hasn't been.
You know, I, of course, would defer to Councillor Chappelle, but I'm pretty sure she'd remember. So in the conversation, it was the 3 meetings in the year and what the intent. There's always an opportunity, the chair can call an additional meeting if there's additional business. If things come up, if something is gone wrong in the park, for example, and there's something going sideways, there's an additional meeting, and that is fine.
And just speaking to that, if there are things that come up that need to be addressed to the budget, if there's something that you notice in the park, you can always inform staff. And if it does require a meeting or a budgetary item, then you can meet to vote if it requires something that needs to be voted on. If it's just maintenance or you notice something, directing staff or making mention to staff or doing it, of course, through the chair, and would be appropriate.
And part of when the walkabout happens, there can be a meeting ahead of that. You know. That might also work.
Or after just,
Yes,
fine.
exactly. Yeah.
So should we set the two additional meetings now on the walkabout? So everything's scheduled.
3 and the walkabout is.
So
Well,
3
it's
remaining?
one.
or-
One. So
So it's
the
March.
next meeting,
So the next meeting would be June, and then prior to the walkabout, a walkabout in July, and then we would have a September meeting.
Yeah, I guess it's better to cluster them instead of having them all any in the winter. So we've got kind of 8 months to have our 3 meetings in the walkabout.
and like I said, you can absolutely have a meeting on the same day as the walkabout to discuss what you find.
The idea is the walkabout in July.
It's up to you guys to see. Council's typically away in August, so that might be why the last ones have been in August, and that's what we've really attended. So maybe before the council break.
July is a good time if you want council, sure.
I would have thought May is better than June. Maybe.
It's a good time because it's
Or the
early.
Really have to get.
Yeah, especially first maybe it's April, then, or no, March, skip April, and May, makes sense.
I was thinking March might be a good time because usually there's a bit of money left in the budget that might need to have a decision made about it or something before the end of the fiscal. So maybe March, May, and July.
Our
And
fiscal
then the
is
walkabout.
January to December.
Oh, it's January.
We're
Oh,
not,
okay.
we don't run like the province.
Okay.
But one in March would be good just because, for instance, with the snow and everything, there's been management inside the park that's happened, so we could be aware of what's been happening during the winter months and if there's anything that needs attention. So March isn't,
And also budget.
yeah.
Okay, so
Get things into the budget if there's things that are required to be in the
do you have
budget.
to put forward a motion?
I would, you might want to submit that.
Okay, before we put forward a motion, so March, May, July walkabout, and September. Can I see a show of hands? Does anyone have any further comments? Okay, so I'll put forward a motion for those, so March, May, July, and September meeting to be scheduled on the first Thursday of every month.
Just keep the format.
Just some clarification, Councillor Chappelle. So you said the March meeting would be an opportunity to guess last things in the budget. Is it too late though at this point?
For this year's,
We put stuff in the budget on Tuesday and that still hasn't come to council.
Okay,
So if there's things that need to be added that are emergencies or that are pertinent, or also how to spend your budget, if it's outside your budget, if it's within the money that's already allotted, it's how the smoke bus one, if there's something that you want to spend it, like a big ticket item or something that needs to be spent, or that you want delineated parking lot, then that should come to council beforehand.
And when's the best time for that to get put to council?
September.
Okay,
Yeah.
we got a meeting in September, so.
Yeah, and that might be a good time after the season to really notice crowds, you know, like if there's extra visitation or there's issues with parking or signage or anything else, September might be a good time to actually do budget.
Susan, is there an additional council meeting that would follow our meeting, our first Thursday of the month that would follow in September?
Yep, every Tuesday.
Oh, every Tuesday,
Yep.
okay.
It's committee and then regular council, but things can be brought up at committee too to go to council.
In terms of the July walkabout, is anybody, like, would we have that on the Thursday evening, or would we have that on a different day for attendance? Is everybody available to meet during the week?
Mostly.
Yeah,
Council's different. I mean, if you want council there, it's
it's gonna be during the week.
Tuesdays are generally our council meeting. So, and weekends, yeah,
And for staff to be there as well, it's typically better when it's during the day on a weekday.
Okay. Will staff schedule that then, or do we need to decide at this meeting when that is?
You could talk about it at your next meeting.
Okay.
You know, set a
yeah,
day.
Okay.
What's been done in the past?
It's been
All over the
August. Has it been all over the place?
it's been sometimes on weekends, sometimes
Mostly
during the
August.
week.
Oh, yeah, as far as what day of the week
Yeah.
I see.
But it has been in August, which is,
Which was-
yeah, it's been the two of them, but generally I just, I guess October or.
I guess, could we take a look at the items listed in the business part of the agenda and decide if we're happy with that being the format for the rest of the year? Was there any items that we wanted added?
I think a
Yeah.
trails item.
You like to visit?
And I'll make the suggestion, could we put park maintenance and budget under the same category?
And we will work with your staff to develop the budget or the agendas as they need to be as
Okay.
items comes forward. Because it doesn't have to be set in stone. You
Okay.
can-
Yeah, if there's things that you're gonna
Yeah.
need on the agenda,
It's for discussion.
they'll send you like into some.
Previously, I think we had, sorry, Brian.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, previously, we had one, I think, called Trails and Amenities.
That's what I was getting to. and that-
Yeah, and it was
As
just,
we discussed it earlier with Laura, would be willing to take on sort of oversight of trails and amenities because she's in the park a great deal and could see if a picnic table was falling over. And John would normally catch this stuff, but you know, she would be the second sort of source. And I think it's important to maintain that in the agenda. It's always been an important part. So if Laura would be willing to take that on, I would see that as a good thing. So.
Is anyone opposed? What about events and filming? Did we have a category for that previously?
I don't know, but we've never really had it as a
Have you
item.
reviewed
Just
the
they
film
pop up.
policy?
in developing, in developing the policy, it was a pretty big issue, and
Yeah.
we got it, and then once the filming policy kind of came into play,
Yeah.
it became something that we really, sometimes staff would report on if there was sort of a
There
filming
was
thing, or
activity.
Brian would if
Yeah.
he was the person on
Yeah.
site,
No.
but only
The
when
policy's
it
just
comes
been
up.
changed as well.
Well, we cemented in that the donations received in the park for filming go back into the park.
Right,
It
right.
go into the maintenance program and, you know, special
Together
projects
with
and
the
what.
language. is actually
Yeah,
great.
it's better language to make sure that that money goes back to the park.
It might be also a good idea to cement that special events, for example, I'm on a mailing list for special events through Devon
Yep,
Guest.
that's right.
She sends it directly to me. It should more properly go to the chair,
Okay.
where the Slope Bluffs is concerned.
Sure,
Okay.
we can change that.
So if it's a Slope Bluff event that is happening, a run or whatever, Kristen can get on it and ask the event manager to come and tell us about it or whatever. So yeah, that would be a more appropriate way to go.
Would we like to go around the table? Does anyone have any additional items?
I think someone from the district should probably follow with BC Hydro about their plans for the spring slashing treatments. The bird nesting window is coming up pretty quick, but the weather's not that good, so I don't know if they'll be able to do it this spring. They might kind of have bad weather and then have nesting birds and then have to wait until the fall, so someone should at least follow up with them and see what they're thinking.
Bob, would that be you or I?
Could be either one of us.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
I guess my comment around BC Hydro is they've got a right of way to be there, and we can ask the question, but they're not the easiest bunch to deal with. They'll kind of do what they do. So I'm not quite sure what your outcome, what your expectations are.
We've been talking to them pretty closely for the past year and a half, and they've agreed to do slashing treatment with a targeted herbicide on the base of all the stems they cut.
Okay.
They were trying to do it last fall, but they ended up having bad weather, so they pushed it off till this spring.
So you just want to ensure that that happens?
Yeah.
Or is there, okay,
Yeah.
sure, yeah, we can follow.
You're familiar with that, right, Elaine?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a good work on that stuff. So.
Yeah, Bob, I don't know if you're aware, but the Hydro actually donated in the range of $3,000 for us to replant some of the areas that they cut down.
Okay.
And then the intention was to try to do to keep the vegetation down rather than cutting it all. But in my absence on the committee, I don't know if something's happened, so I can talk with Wes a bit more about that.
Yeah, Matt's been talking with Hydro.
Oh, Matt has
as
been,
well.
okay.
When he get me. He's not around, but
Well, he's still in touch, so, okay. And did you?
I'm happy that the management plan's been adopted.
Yeah.
Do I prefer a motion to terminate?
Yes.
Oh, I'll make a motion to terminate.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Oh, all in favor?
Yeah, that's right.